Tonight on Fifth Gear, it's behind you.
We've all seen those TV ads about the dangers of not belting up in the back.
In a crash at 30 miles an hour, a backseat passenger without a seatbelt is thrown forward with a force of 3.5 tons. The weight of an elephant charging straight through the driver in front.
But is it just people who become deadly missiles when it comes to the crunch? Because, let's face it, there are all sorts of things we carry around without giving them a second thought. Things like the road atlas, the laptop computer, the briefcase, the shopping, the baggage for the holiday, a little bit of DIY, and of course, here boy, the family pet. Sorry, Woof, all in the name of research. You're happily driving along 1 minute and then forced to suddenly brake the next. You may stop, but the laws of physics dictate that everything else might not. It doesn't take much for those innocent items strewn behind you to suddenly become an arsenal of deadly missiles. We've taken this typical family car, taken off the doors, cut out the roof to get a better view, and mounted it on this high-G sled to subject it to the sort of forces you'd experience in a head-on crash at just 30 miles an hour.
Time for test one. We'll start with a typical scenario. Laptop and nice, solid, reassuring road atlases on the parcel shelf, smart attaché case from Auntie here, bit of shopping everywhere, and of course, Woof comes too.
It's absolute carnage. A road atlas smashes the windscreen and the front seats get pummeled. But what's the expert's view on our first crash?
Although the car is effectively stopped, all the contents are carrying on at 30 miles an hour and they'll continue to move until they hit something. Now on this occasion you can see everything on the parcel shelf has actually flown all the way forwards. Luckily for the occupants in the front, they haven't hit them. But you may not be quite so lucky. In the case of the briefcase, you can see it actually burst open and the shopping has gone well into pieces.
But I mean, one thing I've really noticed, as long as you keep everything on the seat itself or down behind those front seats, it does tend to stay in the rear compartment.
If you keep it low, particularly in the footwell behind the front seats, okay, there's quite a mess down there, but it actually hasn't moved forward at all, hasn't come into the front area where the passengers are, and hasn't caused any damage.
But replay the stuff from the parcel shelf is just like a conveyor belt straight through the middle.
That's right, you've basically got a series of missiles that are heading forwards at 30 miles an hour.
So don't put anything heavy on your parcel shelf.
That would be my advice.
We're looking at killer luggage, and after our first test you may think that the safest place to store heavy items is in the boot. You probably think it's as safe as a vault.
Well, we decided to find out with a typical boot full of DIY paraphernalia. One 30-mile-an-hour crash coming right up.
3, 2, 1...
The toolbox bursts open, hurtling its contents in all directions.
In the early part of the test, the rear seats are actually opening just under their own inertia, but they only reach a certain level. Then just a few milliseconds later, the toolbox arrives like a battering ram. If you look at the rear seats, they've now been forced open such that the back of the seat is really touching the side of the door.
And that toolbox weighs about 15 kilos in reality. What's it effectively weigh there?
Well, this, as we've said, is a 30-mile-an-hour crash, generating roughly 30 Gs. So that's got an effective mass of 450 kilograms, nearly half a tonne.
So a child in the back would be hit by a half-tonne toolbox?
Well, effectively, yes. Anybody sitting in the back seat of that car would be taking that force through the seat belts and they'd be suffering that through their chest.
In fact, when there are no passengers in the back, it's a good idea to fasten the rear belts as they strengthen the seat enormously, and make sure heavy items are placed side on, in a corner and close to the seat to minimise the battering ram effect. If you've got a luggage net, use it. Even a flimsy one will help absorb some energy.
Well, we've got one test to go, the really bulky items. Ever felt threatened by your kitchen sink? No? Well, think again.
You've been to the flat pack furniture store for some choice bits of MDF and chipboard, in fact everything and the kitchen sink. But it's not just the confusing instructions that could ruin your weekend. Watch what happens when you crash at only 30 miles an hour. The folded rear seats act like a launch pad, firing the flat packs straight at your head. The forces involved are enough to bend the sink. Even at a relatively low 30 miles an hour, blunt objects become guillotines.
Well, in our simulated accident, the DIY shopping has destroyed the interior of this car. And I wouldn't fancy to be the driver the way that MDF has sliced into the back of the seat. The sink right the way through between the two front seats. Next time I'm asked to fit a new kitchen, I'll get it delivered.
So there you have it. Who'd have thought a soft toy, some spanners and a sink could be such lethal travelling companions? And don't worry, no animals were harmed in the making of this programme.